I caught the mid-act. Claire's lips pressed against Ethan's neck, her tongue tracing the sweat there, his grunt echoing off the locker room walls as he muttered, "Weeks of this keeps us cool." My wife and my stepson, tangled in a way that made no sense, drenched in Jim's sweat, oblivious to me standing there. The daisies I brought her hit the floor, petals exploding across the tile, and I didn't wait for them to notice. I turned, grabbed a towel from a nearby bench, wrapped it around my fist, and punched the locker door hard. The clang rang out, sharp and final. But I didn't look back. I walked out, left the flowers where they lay, and drove home. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, staring at the wall, and decided I'd play dumb, watch them, figure out how deep this went. Then I'd end it my way. It started a month back, simpler times, or so I'd thought. Claire had been hitting the gym more. Her usual evening runs traded for late sessions with weights and cardio. She'd come home flushed, hair damp, a quiet energy about her I chalked up to endorphins. "Ethan's been joining me," she said one morning, pouring coffee, her voice casual. "Keeps him out of trouble." I'd nodded, sipped my own mug, figured it was harmless, a stepmom and kid bonding over dumbbells. He was 19, lanky but filling out, always trailing her like a shadow since his dad split years ago. I didn't mind, thought it was good for them both. Work kept me busy then. Late hours at the office, spreadsheets blurring into midnight. I'd stumble home, find her already in bed, the faint scent of lavender and sweat clinging to her skin. She'd murmur hello, roll over, and I'd crash beside her, too tired to ask about her day. Ethan would be sprawled on the couch, gaming, barely glancing up as I passed. Normal stuff, routine, predictable. I didn't see the shift. Didn't catch the way her gym bag started staying packed longer, or how his sneakers lined up next to hers by the door more often. One night, she'd come back late, later than usual. I was still up, nursing a beer on the porch, when the car pulled in. She stepped out, gym shorts clinging to her thighs, her shirt dark with sweat. Ethan trailed behind, lugging a water bottle, his hair sticking up like he'd just run a mile. "Long session," she'd said, brushing past me, her smile quick but tight. I'd nodded, asked if they'd had fun. "Yeah," Ethan had muttered, ducking inside. "Real good workout." I'd let it go, finished my beer, figured they were just pushing each other harder, didn't think to question it. The next week, I'd notice the glances, small, fleeting looks across the kitchen table. Her hand brushing his arm when she handed him a plate, his smirk when she laughed a little too loud at his dumb jokes. I'd brushed it off. Family stuff. I told myself. She was 38, fit and sharp, always drawing eyes at the gym. He was just a kid, cocky but aimless. Nothing there to worry about. Still, I started watching closer, how she'd linger by the door when he grabbed his gear, how their voices dropped when they thought I wasn't listening. Then came the day I decided to surprise her. Work let out early, some glitch in the system shutting us down, and I grabbed those daisies on a whim. $5 at the gas station, stem still wet from the bucket. Figured I'd swing by the gym, catch her on her way out, maybe grab dinner after. I'd parked, walked in, waved at the desk guy, and headed straight for the locker rooms. Didn't call ahead. Wanted to look on her face when she saw me, flowers in hand. Instead, I got that, the grunt, the sweat, her lips on him, his words slicing through the air like a blade. I didn't confront them, not then. I drove home, hand steady on the wheel, mind racing but cold. The house was dark when I got there, their gym bag still by the door from earlier. I flicked on the kitchen light, poured a glass of water, and sat at the table. Waited. They'd come back eventually, smiling, sweaty, acting like nothing was wrong. And I'd let them. I'd nod, ask about their workout, keep my voice even, let them think they'd gotten away with it. Because I needed time to watch, to plan, to figure out what came next. They rolled in just past 9, the front door creaking open as I sat at the kitchen table, water glass still in my hand. Claire stepped in first, gym bag slung over her shoulder, her cheeks flushed from the cold outside, or maybe something else. Ethan trailed behind, kicking off his sneakers by the mat, the laces slapping against the floor. "Hey," she said, spotting me, her voice steady but quick, like she was testing the air. I nodded, took a slow sip of water, let the silence stretch. "You're home early," she added, dropping her bag by the counter, moving to the sink to fill a glass of her own. Ethan lingered near the doorway, scratching the back of his neck, avoiding my eyes. "Yeah," I said, setting my glass down, the clink loud in the quiet. Work cut out sooner than expected. I kept my tone flat, watched her pour the water, watched him shift his weight from one foot to the other. She turned, leaned against the counter, sipping slow, her eyes flicking to me then away. "How was the gym?" I asked, letting the question hang, simple and casual. Ethan muttered something. Couldn't catch it. Then shuffled toward the living room, mumbling about a shower. Claire smiled, small and tight. "Good," she said. "Tough session. We pushed it tonight." I nodded again, held her gaze a beat longer than I needed to, then stood to rinse my glass. The next few days, I kept it up, played the part. Mornings, I'd pour coffee, ask about her plans, watch her pack that gym bag with the same quick hands. She'd mention Ethan joining her, toss it out like it was nothing, and I'd smile, say it sounded fun. He'd grunt a response, grab his toast, and they'd head out together once I left for work. I started leaving later, though, lingering by the window, watching their car pull away, her driving, him slouched in the passenger seat. I'd head to the office after, sit at my desk, stare at numbers that didn't add up anymore, my mind back in that locker room. Friday, I switched it up, told her I had a late meeting, wouldn't be home till 10. She nodded, said she'd probably hit the gym anyway. Keep Ethan company. I left at 5, drove around the block, parked 2 streets over from the house. Waited. Their car was gone by 6, taillights disappearing down the road. I slipped back inside, grabbed a flashlight from the garage, and started with her gym bag. Nothing much, towel, water bottle, a spare shirt. Then Ethan's room. Drawers yanked open, socks and boxers spilling out, a crumpled receipt from a diner dated last week. No smoking gun. But it didn't matter. I wasn't looking for proof. I already had that. I wanted patterns, habits, something to grip onto. Saturday morning, I cooked breakfast, eggs, bacon, the works. Claire wandered in, hair still damp from her shower, and Ethan followed, yawning, shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it. I plated the food, set it down, watched them eat. "Gym again today?" I asked, spearing a piece of bacon. She chewed, nodded. "Yeah, keeping the streak going." Ethan smirked, reached for the juice. "Gotta stay in shape," he said, his voice low, like he was in on some joke I wasn't. I smiled back, took a bite, let the grease coat my tongue. "Good for you," I said, and left it there. That afternoon, I tailed them, took the old pickup from the garage, rusty, loud, but they wouldn't spot it. Parked across from the gym, watched them walk in, her hand brushing his back as they passed through the doors. I waited an hour, then slipped inside, flashed a guest pass I'd swiped from work. The place was busy, weekend crowd, weights clanging, treadmills humming. I stuck to the edges, kept my cap low, scanned the floor, found him by the benches, her spotting him, his arms flexing under a barbell, her hand steadying the weight. Normal, almost, but then she leaned in, whispered something, and he grinned, a slow, private thing. My jaw tightened, but I turned away, headed for the exit. Back home, I poured a whiskey, sat on the porch, let the burn settle in my throat. They'd be back soon, sweaty, laughing, acting like everything was fine. And I'd nod, ask about their lifts, keep my hand steady. I wasn't ready to tip my hand. Not yet. I'd watch, wait, let them dig their hole deeper. Because when I moved, it wouldn't be loud or messy. It'd be quiet, clean, and they'd never see it coming. Sunday morning, I woke early, slipped out before they stirred. The house was still dark. Their shoes lined up by the door, gym bags slumped against the wall like they'd been dropped in a hurry. I drove to the gym alone, parked in the far corner, and walked in with my cap pulled low, signed in under a fake name, Mark, some guy from work who'd never noticed, and grabbed a towel from the Stack. The place was quieter than the day before, just a handful of regulars grunting through their sets. I found a spot by the rowing machines, kept my head down, and waited. They showed up around 10. Claire in her usual black leggings, Ethan in a faded tank top, both carrying water bottles. I watched them from across the room, my grip tight on the rower's handle, pulling slow and steady. She led him to the free weights, set up a barbell, and started adjusting the plates. He stood close, too close, his hand brushing her arm as he took over. She stepped back, nodded, then grabbed her phone, snapped a quick picture of him lifting, her smile flashing as she tapped the screen. I kept rowing, the rhythm keeping my hands busy, my mind sharp. After an hour, they headed for the locker rooms. Her to the women's, him to the men's. I waited 5 minutes, then followed Ethan, pushed through the door, heard the hiss of a shower running, saw his bag tossed on a bench. He was in a stall, water splashing, humming some tune I didn't recognize. I moved fast, unzipped his bag, rummaged through. Keys, a protein bar, a folded towel. Then a phone, his phone, screen locked but lighting up with a text. From her, meet me out back in 10. I slipped it back, stepped out before the water shut off. Outside, I circled to the rear of the building, found a spot by the dumpster where the shadows kept me hidden. They came out together, her first, glancing around, him a step behind, hands stuffed in his pockets. She lit a cigarette, a habit she'd kicked years ago, and passed it to him. He took a drag, exhaled slow, then leaned in, kissed her quick hard, like he'd done 100 times. She pulled back, laughed, swatted his chest. My fingers dug into my palms, but I stayed put, watched them climb into her car and peel out. I didn't follow, went home instead, poured a coffee, sat at the table. They rolled in an hour later, her hair tied up, his shirt swapped for a clean one. Good workout. I asked, stirring sugar into my mug. She nodded, grabbed an apple from the bowl. Yeah, hit it hard today. Ethan flopped onto the couch, scrolled his phone, didn't answer. I sipped my coffee, let the bitterness sit on my tongue, and started planning. Monday, I called in sick, first time in years. Waited till they left for the gym, then tore through the house. Started with her dresser. Pushed aside socks, lifted the liner, found nothing but dust. Moved to the closet, rifled through her coats, checked the pockets. A gum wrapper, a receipt for gas, a folded note, blank, crumpled, tossed back. Ethan's room next. Flipped the mattress, shook out the sheets, dug through his desk. A pack of cigarettes, half empty, tucked behind a stack of old comics. Matched the brand I'd seen her smoke. I left it there, kept searching. By noon, I'd hit the garage. Her car gone, but his bike leaned against the wall. I checked the tires, the frame, found a small bag taped under the seat. Inside, a key unmarked and a slip of paper with an address, someplace downtown, scribbled in her handwriting. I pocketed it, reset the bag, and headed back inside, sat on the couch, stared at the ceiling, turned the key over in my hand. Didn't know what had opened yet, but it was a start. They came home that evening. Same routine, bags dropped, shoes kicked off. I cooked dinner, pasta, sauce from a jar, kept my voice light as I served it up. Busy day. I asked, twirling noodles onto my fork. She shrugged, said the gym was packed. Ethan nodded, shoveled food in, barely looked up. I ate slow, watched them, let the key burn a hole in my pocket. Tomorrow, I'd find out what it unlocked and what they were hiding. Tuesday morning, I left the house before dawn, the key from Ethan's bike cold in my pocket. Claire and Ethan were still asleep, her soft snores drifting down the hall, his room silent behind a closed door. I took the pickup, drove downtown, the address from the slip of paper punched into my phone. It led me to a squat brick building wedged between a laundromat and a pawn shop. Faded sign out front reading Storage Solutions. I parked a block away, walked over, kept my cap low as I scanned the lot. No cameras, no guard, just a rusted gate half open. I slipped inside, found the office, a cramped room with a flickering bulb, and a guy dozing behind the counter, boots propped on a chair. I cleared my throat, held up the key. Need to check a unit, I said, keeping it short. He barely looked up, waved me toward a clipboard. I signed as Mark again, scribbled a fake unit number, 107, a guess, and he handed me a pass without a word. I headed out back, rows of steel doors stretching down a concrete alley, the air thick with dust and motor oil. Unit 107 was near the end, the lock stiff but clicking open when I turned the key. I pushed the door up, metal groaning, and stepped inside. A bare bulb swung overhead, casting light on stacks of boxes, a folding chair, a gym mat rolled up in the corner. I started with the boxes, ripped one open, found clothes, her leggings, his tank tops, sweaty and balled up like they'd been tossed in after a workout. Another box held towels, a water bottle, a cheap Bluetooth speaker. Then, under the chair, a duffel bag, unzipped, stuffed with cash. Bundles of 20s, 50s, messy and banded with rubber ties. I counted quick, maybe 10 grand, maybe more. I sat on the chair, cash in my lap, turned it over my hands. Not gym money, not for memberships or protein shakes. This was something else. I dug deeper, found a notebook at the bottom of the bag. Dates, numbers, names I didn't know. Drop 3/15, $2,000 J. One line read. Another. Pick up 4 halves, $5,000 T. Pages of it, going back months. I flipped to the last entry, dated a week ago. Gym cut, $1,000 E. Ethan, my stepson, my wife's shadow. I shoved the notebook back, pocketed a bundle of cash, and locked the unit behind me. Back home, I stashed the money in my toolbox, buried it under screws and nails. They were gone when I got there. Jim again. Her car missing from a drive. I showered, changed, waited for them to roll in. They did just past 6. Her carrying a smoothie, him with headphones dangling around his neck. Hey, I said, flipping channels on the TV, voice steady. Hey, she echoed, kicking off her shoes. Ethan nodded, headed upstairs. I clicked the remote, let the noise fill the room, kept my eyes on the screen. That night, I cooked again, steaks, rare, the way she liked them. Sat across from her at the table, watched her cut into the meat, juice pooling on her plate. Good day? I asked, slicing my own. She nodded, chewed slow. Yeah, busy. You? I shrugged, said work was fine, took a bite. Ethan ate fast, excused himself, left us alone. I poured her a glass of wine, topped off mine, let the quiet settle. You two seem tight lately. I said casual, swirling the glass. She paused, fork halfway to her mouth, then smiled. He's a good kid, keeps me motivated. I nodded, sipped, let it drop. Wednesday, I tailed him again, parked at the gym, watched them go in, waited an hour, then drove to the storage unit. Used the key, slipped inside, checked the duffel. The cash was still there, untouched, notebook too. I took pictures, every page, every bundle, sent them to a burner email I'd set up on my phone. Locked up, drove back, parked in time to see them leave the gym, her laughing, him tossing his bag in the trunk. I followed at a distance, saw them pull into a diner 3 blocks over. Not home, not yet. I waited across the street, watched through the window as they slid into a booth, ordered fries, leaned close over the table. She handed him something, small, folded, maybe paper. He tucked it in his pocket, grinned, grabbed a fry. I stayed till they left, drove home alone, sat in the dark with a whiskey. The cash, the notebook, the diner, they were pieces, but not the whole picture. I'd keep digging, keep watching. Sooner or later, they'd slip, and I'd be there. Thursday morning, I skipped work again. Called in, said I'd caught a bug. Kept my voice hoarse over phone. Claire didn't question it when I told her, just nodded over her coffee. Said she'd check in later. Ethan grabbed his gym bag, muttered something about meeting her there, and they left separately, her in the car, him on his bike. I waited 10 minutes, then took the pickup to the diner they'd hit the night before. Parked out front, walked in, ordered a black coffee from a waitress with a tired smile. Sat by the window, watched the street, sipped slow. A guy showed up around noon, short, wiry, in a gray hoodie and jeans too tight for his frame. He slid into a booth near the back, pulled out a phone, started tapping. I recognized the spot, same one Claire and Ethan had taken. I paid for my coffee, left a tip, stepped outside, and circled to the alley behind the diner. Found a fire escape, climbed up quiet, got a view through a grimy window. He was still there, alone, counting cash, small stacks, 20s mostly, like what I found in the storage unit. He stuffed it in a backpack, checked his phone again, then left. I tailed him, kept 2 cars between us as he drove a beat-up sedan across town. He stopped at a warehouse, one of those crumbling relics near the river, windows boarded, graffiti streaking the walls. He went inside, backpack slung over one shoulder. I parked a block away, grabbed a crowbar from the pickup's toolbox, and followed on foot. The side door was unlocked, rusted hinges creaking as I eased it open. Inside it was dim, the air thick with mildew and dust. Voices echoed from deeper in, his, sharp and quick, and another, lower, grumbling. I crept closer, stuck to shadows, peered around a stack of crates. The wiry guy stood with 2 others, big, tattooed, one holding a duffel not unlike the one from the storage unit. They were haggling, cash on a table, bags of white powder next to it. Jim cut short this week. The wiry one snapped, tossing his backpack down. He said, "You cover it." The big one shrugged, unzipped the duffel, pulled out more cash. "Tell E to deliver next time," he said, voice like gravel. I snapped a photo with my phone, blurry, but enough, then backed out, heart steady, crowbar still in hand. Back home, I uploaded the picture to the burner email, stared at it on my laptop. Ethan, E tied to this, and Claire with him. The gym was a front, had to be, money moving through sweat and steel. I closed the screen, poured a whiskey, sat in the dark till they got back. Claire came in first, dropped her keys on the counter, asked how I was feeling. Better. I lied, coughed for effect. Ethan followed, nodded at me, headed upstairs. I watched her heat up leftovers. Asked about the gym. "Same old," she said, stirring a pot. "You should come sometime." I smiled, said maybe I would. Friday, I went back to the storage unit. Key in pocket, crowbar in the truck. Unlocked 107. Checked the duffel. Cash was down. Maybe half would have been. Notebook updated with new line. Drop 46, $3,000 W. Wiry guy, probably. I took another bundle. Locked up, drove to the gym. Signed in as Mark. Wandered the floor, spotted them. Her on a treadmill, him lifting nearby. Watched her wave at a trainer. A wiry shadow slipping past the lockers. Same guy from the diner. He nodded at Ethan, ducked into the men's room. I waited. Saw Ethan follow a minute later, come out wiping his hands. No bag. That night, I cooked again, chili, slow simmered, the house thick with spice. They ate quiet, her scrolling her phone, him picking at the bowl. "Jim busy today?" I asked, spooning seconds. She nodded, said weekends always were. Ethan grunted, pushed his chair back, said he was beat. I cleared the table, watched her sip water, her fingers tapping the glass. "You're quiet tonight," she said, eyes on me. I shrugged, said I was still under the weather. She smiled, patted my arm, went to bed. I stayed up, mapped it out, storage, diner, warehouse, gym, cash and powder. Ethan and Claire in the middle. Tomorrow, I'd push harder, follow the wiry guy, find the source. They thought they had me fooled, but I was closing in. One slip, and I'd have him cold. Saturday dawned gray. Clouds pressing low over the house as I slipped out before they woke. Left a note on the counter. Said I'd gone for a drive to clear my head. Wouldn't be long. Took the pickup, drove to the gym, parked across the street. Claire's car was already there. Ethan's bike chained near the entrance. I waited, sipped cold coffee from a thermos, watched the doors. The wiry guy, W I'd started calling him, pulled up 20 minutes later, sedan rattling as he parked. He went inside, backpack slung loose over one shoulder. I gave him 5 minutes, then followed, guest pass in hand, cap pulled down. The gym buzzed with the weekend crowd, weights clanging, treadmills whirring. Claire was by the squat racks, spotting Ethan, her hand steady on the bar. W was near the water fountain, filling a bottle, his eyes flicking to them. I grabbed a towel, draped it over my shoulder, moved to the bikes nearby, pedaled slow, kept him in my peripheral. He approached Ethan, muttered something, handed him a folded piece of paper. Ethan tucked it in his shorts, nodded, went back to lifting. W left fast, didn't look back. I trailed him outside, kept my distance as he climbed into his car. He drove north, toward the river again, past the warehouse this time. Stopped at a gas station, grimy pumps, a flickering sign. Went inside. I parked by the air compressor, watched him through the glass. He bought a pack of smokes, leaned on the counter, chatted with the clerk. Then a black SUV rolled up, tinted windows, engine idling. W stepped out, climbed in the passenger side, and they peeled off. I followed. 2 cars back, heart steady, hands firm on the wheel. They led me to a dockside lot. Empty crates stacked high, gulls screeching overhead. The SUV parked near a rusted shipping container, and W got out with a bigger guy, bald, leather jacket, moving like he owned the place. I killed the engine, slid low in the seat, watched them unlock the container. Inside, more bags, white powder, piled sloppy, some cash too. W handed over his backpack, got a thicker one in return. They shook hands, parted ways, him back to the SUV, bald guy staying put. I snapped photos, blurry through the windshield, sent them to the burner email. Back home, they were gone again, gym bags missing, a text from Claire saying they'd be late. I checked the toolbox, cash still there, then drove to the storage unit. Unlocked 107, found the duffel lighter, cash down to a few bundles, notebook updated. Pick up 4/7 for $1,000 DE. D for dockside, maybe. I pocketed the notebook this time, locked up, headed to the diner. Ordered fries, sat in their booth, watched the door. W didn't show, but a kid did. Teen, twitchy, hoodie up, dropped a baggie under the table, left fast. I paid, grabbed the baggie, powder, same as the warehouse, and tucked it in my jacket. That night, they came home past 10, her laughing, him hauling a pizza box. I was on the couch, TV on low, whiskey in hand. Long day? I asked, setting the glass down. She nodded, dropped the box on the counter. Yeah, gym, then some errands. Ethan grabbed a slice, flopped beside me, scrolled his phone. I watched her slice the pizza, asked if she'd seen anyone interesting. Just the usual, she said, handing me a plate. I took it, ate slow, let the grease sit heavy. Sunday. I pushed further, drove to the dockside lot at dawn, crowbar in the truck. The container was locked, but I pried it open, metal screeching in the quiet. Same bags, same cash, more now stacked messy. I took a baggie, a wad of bills, resealed the lock best I could. Back in the pickup. I stashed them under the seat, drove to the gas station. Waited till the SUV showed. Same bald guy, alone this time. He went inside, came out with coffee, drove off. I followed, kept back, saw him pull into a motel. Cheap neon sign, curtains drawn. He went into room 12, stayed put. I parked, waited an hour, then knocked on 12. He opened, squinted at me, hand on the knob. Wrong room, he growled, started to shut it. I jammed my foot in, held up the baggie from the container. Found this, I said, voice flat, think it's yours. He froze, eyed me hard, then stepped back. I walked in, shut the door, ready to see how far this web stretched, and where it'd take me next. The motel room smelled of stale smoke and cheap cologne, the air thick as I stepped inside. Bald guy. D, I figured, shut the door behind me, leaned against it, arms crossed. Who the hell are you? He asked, voice low, eyes narrowing on the baggie in my hand. I tossed it onto the bed, lumpy mattress, sheets tangled, kept my stance loose. Found that in your container, I said, nodding toward the door. Thought you want it back. He didn't move, just stared, then snorted, grabbed the baggie, and tucked it in his jacket. Finder's fee's not a thing here, he said, stepping closer, sizing me up. I held his gaze, pulled the water bills from my pocket, dropped them next to the baggies then on the bed. Not looking for cash, I said. Just answers. He paused, scratched his jaw, then sat on the edge of the mattress, motioned to a chipped wooden chair by the window. I took it, kept the crowbar in the truck out of mind, waited for him to talk. He lit a cigarette, exhaled slow, smoke curling toward the stained ceiling. "You're not a cop," he said, more statement than question. I shook my head, kept my hand still, not even close. He nodded, took another drag. "Then you're in over your head. That container's not a lost and found." I leaned forward, elbows on knees. I know what's in it. Seen the cash, the powder. Seen W drop it off. Seen he pick it up. I want the chain, who's feeding it, who's eating. His eyes flicked to the door, back to me, weighing. "E's a runner," he said finally, flicking ash onto the carpet. "Kid's got hustle, moves product through the gym. W's my middleman, keeps the small fry in line. Chain starts higher, though out of my pay grade." I nodded, filed it away. "And the woman with E?" I asked, voice steady, testing. He smirked, crushed the cigarette on the nightstand. "She's the brains. Sets the drops, counts the take. They're a package deal, been at it months." My jaw tightened, but I kept it locked, let him keep going. He stood, grabbed a beer from a mini fridge, cracked it open. "You're not their type," he said, sipping. I me over the can. "Family?" I didn't answer, just stood, pocketed the bills he hadn't touched. "Something like that," I said, heading for the door. He didn't stop me, just called after, "Watch your back. They don't like loose ends." I stepped out, shut the door, drove off. Motel fading in the rear view, his words ringing. Back home, I stashed the baggie and cash in the toolbox, locked it tight. Claire and Ethan rolled in around noon, her in a fresh hoodie, him with a gym-shaking hand. I was in the garage, tinkering with the pickup's oil, crowbar on the bench. "Hey," she said, poking her head in, voice light. "Feeling better?" I wiped my hands on a rag, nodded. "Yeah, just keeping busy." Ethan leaned on the doorframe, slurped his shake, said nothing. I asked about the gym, kept it casual. "Crowded," she said, shrugging. "Same old." Monday, I went to work. First time in days. Sat through meetings, nodded at the right spots, left early. Drove to the diner, waited in the pickup. W showed at dusk. Met the twitchy kid again, swapped bags under the table. I followed W after, back to the warehouse. Same routine, cash out, powder in, snap more photos. Sent them to the burner. Tuesday, I hit the storage unit. Duffel restocked. Notebook gone. Took a fresh bundle of cash. Locked up, kept moving. Wednesday night, I cooked. Chicken, rice simple. They ate quick. Her scrolling her phone, him texting between bites. "Plans tomorrow?" I asked, clearing plates. She nodded, said gym and errands. Ethan grunted, said he'd tag along. I smiled, said I might join them sometime. Watch her pause, fork tapping her plate. "Sure," she said, voice tight. "Whenever you want." I nodded, rinsed the dishes, let the water drown the quiet. Thursday, I tailed him to the gym, parked far, watched W meet Ethan by the lockers again. Quick handoff. Folded paper. I drove to the dockside lot after, checked the container. Still stocked, lock intact. Took another baggie, more cash, resealed it. Back home, I sat on the porch, whiskey in hand, pieces clicking. Claire and Ethan ran it. Jim as cover, W and D as links. Someone higher pulling strings. I'd meet D again, push harder. They'd slip soon, I'd make sure of it. Friday morning, I left the house early. Told Claire I had a meeting. Half true, half lie. She nodded over her toast. Said she'd see me later. Ethan still asleep upstairs. I took the pickup to the motel. Parked a row back from room 12. Waited. Bald guy, D. Stepped out at 9, coffee in hand. Climbed into his SUV. I followed. Kept my distance. Watched him hit the gas station, then the warehouse. He stayed inside 20 minutes. Came out with a duffel. Drove to the dockside lot. I parked nearby, grabbed a crowbar, slipped it under my jacket, and tailed him on foot. He unlocked the container, tossed the duffel in, started counting bags, powder and cash, same as before. I stepped up quiet, crowbar loose in my grip, clear my throat. He spun, hand reaching for his waist, froze when he saw me. "You again," he growled, relaxing a fraction, eyeing crowbar. I nodded, kept it low. "Need more," I said, stepping closer. "Names, not guesses." He snorted, lit a cigarette, leaned on a crate. "Told you. Chain's long. I'm just a link." I tossed a baggie from my stash onto the pile, watched his eyes track it. "E and her. They're moving this through the gym," I said, voice flat. "Who's above you?" He exhaled smoke, smirked. "You don't ask that and walk away clean." I stepped in, crowbar tapping my leg. "I'm not walking away." He paused, crushed a cigarette under his boot, nodded slow. "Guy named Ruiz, runs the top. Warehouse is his. I don't meet him. W does. That's all you get." I nodded, pocketed the info, left him there. Back at the pickup, I drove to the diner, waited for W. He showed at noon. Same sedan, same backpack, met the twitchy kid again. I snapped photos, followed him after. He hit the gym this time, parked out back, went in through a side door. I signed in as Mark, cap low, found him by the lockers, talking to Ethan. Claire was across the floor, on a treadmill, oblivious or playing it. W. Handed Ethan a bag, small and black, got a wad of cash in return. I lingered by the weights, watched W leave. Ethan tucked the bag in his shorts. I tailed W again, back to the warehouse, then a new spot, a bar downtown, neon buzzing over the door. He went in, stayed an hour, came out with a guy, tall, slick hair, suit too sharp for place. Ruiz, maybe. They talked by the sedan, quick and low, then split. W to his car, suit to a Mercedes. I followed the Mercedes, kept back, watched it pull into a gated house. Big, modern, lights glowing behind tall fences. Snapped the plate, sent it to the burner, drove home. They were there when I got back, Claire in the kitchen, Ethan on the couch, pizza box open between them. "Long meeting," she said, slicing a piece, handing it over. I took it, nodded. "Yeah, ran late." Sat with him, ate slow, watched her laugh at his dumb joke, watched him scroll his phone. "Gym good today?" I asked, wiping my hands. She nodded, said it was busy. Ethan grunted, said he'd lifted heavy. I smiled, finished my slice, let the quiet settle. Saturday, I went to the storage unit. Key in pocket, crowbar in hand. Unlocked 107. Checked the duffel, cash low, a new bag of powder inside. Took it, locked up, drove to the dockside lot. Container was stocked, more cash now, less powder. I grabbed another baggie, resealed it, headed to the bar, parked across the street, waited. Suit Ruiz showed at dusk, went in, came out with W an hour later. They drove to the house, gates swallowing them up. I stayed till midnight, saw lights flick off, drove back. Sunday I cooked pancakes, bacon, kept it light. They ate slow, her flipping through a magazine, him texting. "Plans today?" I asked, pouring syrup. She nodded, said gym later. Ethan shrugged, said maybe. I cleared the plates, asked if they'd seen W around. "Who?" She said, too quick, eyes on the page. "Trainer guy." I lied, casual. "Skinny gray hoodie." She shook her head, said she didn't know him. Ethan didn't look up. I nodded, rinsed the dishes, let it drop. That night, I sat on the porch, whiskey in hand, pieces lining up. Ruiz at the top, W linking, Ethan and Claire running the gym cut. I had photos, cash, powder, enough to bury them. Tomorrow, I'd hit the house, find Ruiz, end it clean. They'd never see me coming. Monday morning, I called in sick again, croaked into the phone, said I'd be out a few days. Claire barely looked up from her coffee, just nodded, told me to rest. Ethan grabbed his bike keys, said he'd meet her at the gym later. I waited till they left, her car rumbling out first, his bike winding down the street. Then grabbed the crowbar, the baggie, and the cash bundle from the toolbox. Took the pickup to the gated house. Parked a block away. Walked the rest. The fence loomed high, but a side gate hung loose. Latch rusted. I slipped through, crowbar tucked under my jacket. The yard was quiet. Manicured lawn. A fountain gurgling near the porch. Lights were off. Mercedes gone. I circled to the back. Found a patio door glass. Flimsy lock. Popped it with a crowbar. Stepped inside. Marble floors stretched out. A kitchen gleaming to my left. Stairs curving up ahead. I started there, climbed slow, checked rooms. Office at the end. Desk piled with papers. A laptop closed. A safe bolted to the wall. I pried the desk drawers, pens, receipts, a key. Tried it on the safe. Clicked open, revealing stacks of cash. More powder, a ledger. I flipped the ledger, names, dates, totals. Jim 4/8, $3,000 near the top, C cord, $2,000 below it. Ethan and Claire, in ink tied to Ruiz. I pocketed the ledger. Took a stack of cash, left the rest. Downstairs, I rummaged the kitchen. Found a burner phone in a drawer. Powered it on. Text loaded. W, drop set for April 10th. Jim ready. C counts good. I snapped photos. Sent them to my burner email. Tucked the phone back. Left the house. Reset the lock. Drove off. Midday, I hit the gym. Sign in as Mark. Cap low. Claire was on a rower. Ethan lifting nearby. W slipped in. Met Ethan by the benches. Handed off a bag. I watched in the cardio deck. Snapped a photo. Saw Claire glance their way. Gnawed slight. They didn't see me. Too busy. Too sure. I left. Drove to the diner. Waited. W showed it too. Met the twitchy kid. Swapped bags. I followed him to the warehouse. Same routine. Cash out. Powder in. Snapped more pics. Sent them off. Kept moving. Back home, I stashed the ledger with the toolbox haul. Cooked dinner. Spaghetti. Quick and quiet. They rolled in at 7. Her in a fresh shirt, him with his headphones on. Feeling better? She asked, grabbing a plate. I nodded, twirled pasta, said I'd slept it off. Ethan ate fast, said he'd. Shower, disappeared upstairs. I asked her about the gym. Kept it light. Busy, she said, sipping water. Lots of new faces. I smiled, said I might check it out soon. Watched her fork pause, then move again. Tuesday, I tailed Ruiz. Mercedes leaving the house at dawn, heading downtown. Parked outside a glass-fronted office, some import-export name on the sign. He went in, stayed 3 hours, came out with a briefcase. I followed to the bar, watched him meet W inside, then drive to the dockside lot. He checked the container, unloaded cash, loaded powder, left fast. I pried it open after, took another baggie, more bills, resealed it, drove to the motel, knocked on 12. He opened, squinted, let me in. Ruiz, I said, dropping the baggie on the bed. He's the top. He nodded, cracked a beer, sat heavy. Yeah, runs it all. Jim's just a spoke. I tossed the ledger page I'd torn out, E and C's lines. Watched him scan it. They're in deep, he said, handing it back. You got enough to burn them. I nodded, pocketed it, asked who'd listen. Cops won't, he said, sipping. Ruiz owns too many. Go higher, feds maybe. I stood, thanked him, left. Wednesday, I compiled it. Photos, ledger pics, cash shots. Uploaded everything to a USB. Stashed it in the pickup's glove box. Cooked again. Steaks bloody. Kept my hands busy. They ate quiet, her texting him scrolling. Big day tomorrow? I asked, cutting meat. She nodded, said gym stuff. Ethan grunted, said same. I smiled, cleared the table, waited till they slept, sat in the dark, USB in hand, ready to finish it. Tomorrow, I dropped the hammer. They'd never know till it hit. Thursday morning, I left the house at first light. Note on the counter said I'd gone to the doctor, back by noon. Claire wouldn't check. Ethan wouldn't care. Took the pickup downtown. USB in my pocket. Parked near the federal building, gray stone, flag snapping in the wind. Walked in. Asked for the tip line desk. Got waved to a cramped office on the third floor. A Fed met me, suit crisp, eyes sharp. Took the USB. Listened as I laid it out. Gym Storage Warehouse, Dockside. Names Ruiz W. E. See dates, drops, proof. He nodded, said they'd look. Told me to sit tight, stay quiet. I left, drove off, kept the crowbar close. Mid-morning, I hit the gym. Signed in as Mark, cap low. Claire was by the treadmills. Ethan lifting heavy. W lurking near the lockers. I watched from the bikes, pedaled slow. Saw W hand Ethan a bag. Get cash back. Claire glanced over. Smiled at Ethan. Kept running. I snapped a final photo. Sent it to the burner. Left fast. Drove to the diner. Waited. W showed at 1. Met the twitchy kid. Swapped again. Followed him to the warehouse. Watched him unload. Drove back home. They weren't there. Gym bags gone. Car missing. I cooked lunch. Sandwiches quick. Ate alone. Kept the TV on low. Feds would move soon, I figured. USB had enough to crack it wide. Claire texted at 3. Running late, gym stuff. I replied. Said no rush. Waited. They rolled in at 6. Her in leggings, him with a shake. Both sweaty. Long session. I asked. Setting plates out. Leftover spaghetti. Reheated. She nodded. Said they'd pushed it. Ethan grunted, grabbed a fork. Ate standing. I watched them. Kept my voice even. Asked about W again. Don't know him, she said quick. Eyes on her plate. I nodded, let it go. Night fell. I sat on the porch. Whiskey in hand. Sky darkening. Headlights flashed at 9. Black SUVs, no markings. Pulling up quiet. Fed spilled out. Vests on. Guns low, knocked hard. I opened the door. Stepped aside. Pointed upstairs. They're in bed, I said, voice flat. Claire stumbled down first. Robe loose, hair messy. Ethan behind, shirtless, blinking. What's this? She snapped, then saw the badges froze. They cuffed them. Read rights. Hauled them out. Her yelling him silent. Eyes on me. Fed searched. Found the gym bags. Cash tucked in socks. A bag in Ethan's drawer. Took my toolbox haul too. Ledger picks matched their files. Lead Fed nodded at me. Said they'd tracked Ruiz that day. Hit the warehouse, dockside. House. Clean sweep, he called it. Handed me a card. Told me to call if more came up. I watched them drive off. Taillights fading. House empty now. Quiet settling in. Friday I cleaned. Scrubbed the kitchen. Tossed their shoes, gym gear, leftovers. Drove to the storage unit. Empty, lock cut. Feds had been there. Checked the diner. Closed, tape across the door. Warehouse next. Boarded up, lot vacant. Dockside container gone. Just tire marks left. Back home. I packed a bag. Clothes, cash from the toolbox, the crowbar. Left the pickup. Took a cab to the bus station. Bought a ticket north. One way. No return. Saturday. I rode out. Bus rattling. Fields blurring past. Phone buzz once. Fed's car number. A voicemail. Ruiz flipped name names, trial set. You're clear. I deleted it. Tossed the phone out the window. Watched it bounce on asphalt. Settled back. Closed my eyes, let the road hum. Claire and Ethan were gone. Cuffs, cells. Their mess their own now. I built it. Watched it burn. Walked away clean. New town, new name. Mark. Maybe. Nothing left to hold me here. Sunday, I stepped off the bus. Small place. Pines thick. Air sharp. Rented a room. Cash up front. Sat on a sagging bed. Poured a whiskey from a flask. Sipped slow. Stared at the wall. No gym, no sweat. No shadows chasing. Just me, the quiet, and a life I'd carve from scratch. They'd never find me, and I'd never look back. Thanks for sticking with me until the end of this story. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss more gripping stories like this. We post new ones every day. Drop a comment below to share what you loved or didn't love about this story. I'd love to hear your thoughts. See you in the next one.